Welcome to Dorking Out. My name is Sonia Mansfield, and joining me is my podcasting sister from another mister and the co-host of Dorking Out, Margo D. Hello, friend.
More poems, more poems, more poems.
That's not something people say. Also joining us is one of our favorite people from one of our favorite podcasts. It's Erika Bromley from F This Movie. Hello, friend.
Hi, everybody.
We are so...
You already had me giggling.
No, we are so excited that Erika is here because we are dorking out about 1988's Cocktail. This movie has been on our list since Erika was on last year, I think, to talk about Can't Buy Me Love.
Was that a full year ago?
Maybe,
Oh,
Erika.
more.
You need to come on more often than that. That's ridiculous.
Okay, I can dork out. If nothing else, I can dork out. I don't know if I have anything else to offer.
You have so much to offer.
Thanks.
If y'all haven't seen Cocktail, you should just pause this and you should watch Cocktail. It came out in 1988. It stars Tom Cruise and Bryan Brown, Elizabeth Shue. She's adorable. Everybody drink. And Gina Gershon. I totally forgot Gina Gershon was in this. And and Kelly Lynch, who I also forgot was in this.
I was shocked to see Kelly Lynch in this movie because I always see her as someone who's super classy and would be above this. And I'm surprised, but she was a young actress. Like, she's taking the parts she can get, I guess.
Right.
Well, you know, it's funny that you guys say that because I think I watched this movie maybe more than any human should ever watch this movie. And I was way too young too, like sneaking this in at my friend's house down the street. And I mean, we'll get to all that. But anyway, so for me, Kelly Lynch is always Cocktail. No, that's crazy. I know. Everyone else would be like, I mean, Roadhouse and what else? She's in
Drugstore Cowboy.
Cowboy. Yeah. But yeah, for me, it's always Cocktail. Oh,
wow.
Yeah, I know. That's right.
We need to get into this because the reason we wanted to talk about Cocktail was Erika super loves Cocktail. Or, well, maybe she super loves it, hates it, has watched it a million times, and I'm curious what it is about. So obviously you didn't see it in the theater because you're way young. Margo and I probably saw it in the theater. But
I refused.
I was going to ask you. You remember?
Oh, yeah. I hated Tom Cruise in the mid-'80s. I didn't see Top Gun. I didn't see this. I didn't see Born on the 4th of July. Like, I went through a good 5 or 6 years avoiding Tom Cruise films.
Interesting.
Passionately.
Okay.
Until Mission Impossible. And then I got totally on the Cruise train because I love those movies.
That is... Yeah. I was the opposite. So we've talked about this before on the podcast. My parents had no concept of movie ratings. That meant nothing to them. They were like, whatever, just watch whatever you want. And so my mom took me to a double feature of Risky Business and Trading Places. And I would have been 13, maybe, when those came out, I think. And when I saw Risky Business, I thought Tom Cruise was so cute. Because he's very, I don't know if people know this, Tom Cruise is very handsome. So I had a huge crush on him, and it didn't last long, to be honest. He's not like really my type, but I did really like him. So I saw Top Gun. I probably really liked it I did. I really liked it at the time. I saw Cocktail in the theater. I don't recall liking it, but I did see it in the theater.
Okay. So much, I feel like so much of our personal relationships with movies come from when we first saw them, the who we were with, what the memories are around that, right? And especially when you're younger. And so I don't know. I was not like a teen beat, cut out the pictures and put them on my wall type of girl. I did have like certain actors that I thought were actresses that I thought were very like, good looking and that I liked them in a certain role, but I didn't like go too crazy with even when I was in grade school and everybody was like falling in love with New Kids on the Block. I remember just kind of like not being into it as much, but I kind of thought Donnie was cool, but like I just wasn't, I don't know, I was like by no means was I like cool or a rebel at all, but I also just didn't like, I don't know how to explain it. It was like, okay, whatever. So I had friends who would like cut out, right, and put up all the actors like on their walls and stuff,
Yep.
And I read all sorts of magazines and stuff, and I would keep them, but I just didn't get into like the hanging them. So anyway, the reason I give that little backstory is because something was different about Tom Cruise with me. It's like I could not stop looking at his face ever, and I was yes, and so but I'm talking like grade school, right? So I'm so young, and so the first movie, I mean, Top Gun came out in '86, but I did not see it in the theater because I was too young. But I think as soon as it was available for home video purchase, right? I had a friend who lived down the street, and her parents had a giant pull down screen in their walkout style basement. I mean, this was like
fancy.
Yeah, I was just telling this to Patrick yesterday. Like, I walked to her house like every day after school practically. My mom would make me finish my homework, and then I'd walk down to Ann's, and she had a pull down projector, the big projector. You know how they used to have like the big lights?
Yeah.
So she had that, and then they had a giant VHS collection. And I think about this now. I don't think that she or her sister grew up to be movie loving people who like wanted to own, right? But it was so obviously already in me at age like 10 that I wanted that sort of basement, and I wanted to own the movies I loved. And it meant so much to me, even at that age, that she had this. She didn't care. It was like, she's just used to it, right? But I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Anyway, we watched Top Gun. Somehow we got away with it. And then we watched it over and over and over again. And so that was the start for me. There are moments in that movie. That's a whole nother. Have you guys dorked out about Top Gun already?
So Margo just did an episode of Book versus Movie about Top Gun, and it was her first time watching Top Gun.
I was a very moody teenager, and I hated certain things. So I hated Bon Jovi.
Okay.
Madonna.
Okay.
I don't
Tom
understand
Cruise.
this.
Okay.
And sushi. Those were big things I hated. And for very dumb reasons. I was very stubborn about it. But then, because you're just like that as a kid, you kind of I realize now it's dumb to attach yourself to things you don't like. It's more important to just find things you do like and take pleasure.
Yeah.
That's a great way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did see Top Gun for the first time. We did that for Book versus Movie because it's based on a magazine article, and I fucking loved it.
Oh my God. You did?
Loved it.
Oh my gosh. I love that you loved it. It's so funny. And I mean, there was an F This Movie episode on Top Gun a long time ago, where this side note, I tried to make cookies in the shape of like jets and planes, and they came out looking very different. So that's a long running penis cookie joke there. But anyway, it was Patrick and Doug that recorded on that. And Patrick kind of like hates it, but Doug has this nostalgia for it. And we all like as a group need to get together one day and dork out about that, but have like Patrick's little like hating voice in our corner to just, like make us laugh because it's so funny. But yeah, okay, so Top Gun, that's what started it with me though. And then I went back once I could, like, so I tried to see what I could that was like, so then Cocktail, once again, I didn't see the theater, but once I could see it, it was like, I couldn't stop watching Cocktail. And then, Rain Man, okay, Born on the 1st of July, Days of Thunder, I was really into. I won tickets off of the radio, Z95 in Chicago, if there's any Chicago listeners. And I got to go to the drive-in movie and see Days of Thunder for free. That was super exciting.
I love that it was for the drive-in.
Yeah, it was so cool. But then I went back, and this is where I'm not going to name all his movies because I would love to, though. Can we just do a dorking out Tom Cruise one day?
We totally could.
Oh, yeah.
Gosh, okay. But here's where I'm going with this. Once I found out that in all the right moves, if you pause it at the right moment, you see his penis. Yes.
I did see that.
And I rented it from, I don't remember if it was West Coast Video or Blockbuster. We pretty much just had those two really close to my house. Yes, rented it, paused it, took note, and moved on,
Okay. Yeah. I did not know this, and now I'm over here writing down all the right moves.
It's a good movie.
Pause. Yeah. Maybe could you give me timestamp so I could just fast forward?
I'm sure it's on the internet someplace.
I'm happy to find that out.
Mr. Skin, that's what he's there for.
Absolutely. But yeah, and so Cocktail for me, I love it, but in this way that it's like funny because it's a terrible movie, right? I mean, it's so terrible. It's so dumb. But I have just like this nostalgia for it. And I remember being on I was going to say a small trip, but a small trip for my family back then was a big deal. We went to Wisconsin Dells. So for other people, it's like they do that every weekend. We were like, woo, we're going. So we went and we got to go to one gift shop and like pick out a souvenir, right? And my little brother probably picked something cool that represented like what we were doing and exploring and going on the boats, what do they call them? The Wisconsin Ducks. Anyway, here's what I picked out of the gift shop. A poster book of Tom Cruise posters.
Oh my God.
And I kept this for the longest time. And I actually, right now, I'm thinking they are in my house somewhere. They're in here for sure.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's my start with Cocktail. It's terrible, but yeah.
It really is like a watered down cocktail, a weak drink, this movie. But it is kind of like Top Gun in that it's so incredibly watchable.
Right.
Like if it was on right now, I'd be like, yeah, sure, you can leave Cocktail on. Like I would I would watch it. I have to say when I first saw it, I think by the time I saw Cocktail, I might have been more interested in Bryan Brown at that point. I was such a weird teenager. Like
I love it.
I saw FX and thought it was awesome.
With Brian Dennehy.
And with our old man crush, Brian Dennehy, because I really liked Brian Dennehy. So that's probably why I saw FX. And then I probably thought Bryan Brown was really cool and I liked his accent. Yeah. So by the time Cocktail came around, I was like, oh, Tom Cruise and Bryan Brown? And the girl from Karate Kid from Adventures in Babysitting? They made a movie just for me.
She had a run. Oh my gosh. Like, she's so adorable. But yeah.
She's so cute in this movie.
That hair. I love her hair.
I knew it.
So much.
I knew the hair was going to come up because we did this with Can't Buy Me Love too. How much did you covet Elizabeth Shue's hair?
It's probably the only reason I ever got a perm.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's like lovely curls, but they're not springly. They're like, they look really soft and it looks like she just kind of runs her fingers through her hair and just goes about her day and it's no big deal. It's just like this natural beauty that she has that's just so...
She is not
she's
fussy.
Like a sunset. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. She's
and
beautiful.
Her face, yes, she really is so beautiful. And she had such a run there, right? Like Adventures in Babysitting and like you said, Karate Kid.
Mm-hmm.
What else was around that time?
I'm going to look it up because I was definitely
Back to the Future Part 2.
Yes.
And 3. Oh, Soap Dish. Then you get to Leaving Las Vegas and it's like such a turn.
Oh, but Soap Dish.
Yeah. I just always loved her.
Yeah. Heart and Souls. Yeah.
The black swimsuit that she wears in Cocktail, I just thought it was so simple. I'm like, look, it's just a black swimsuit. It's so simple, but she's such a babe. Like I was obsessed with black swimsuit.
I wrote in my notes that she is like the most modestly dressed person at that resort. Like with her, like everyone's in like nothing bikinis, and she's like
bikini.
Yeah, and she's wearing a one-piece
wraparound
black bathing suit with like a wraparound, which by the way, that's what I would wear. And she's so modest. Or they even go to like a bar or a club or something, and she's wearing like a long sleeve shirt, but it has like no back or something, but it was still sexy. But I'm like, she's so modest.
Right. And then, I mean, even the fact that they really like date, right? The way that it's cut together is like they're going on all these dates and they're really getting to know each other. And then we finally get to the waterfall scene.
Oh my God, that waterfall
scene. The black swimsuit comes off.
Those sex scenes are so uncomfortable for me. Because I don't buy Tom that and in Top Gun. I don't think he's great at sex scenes, or it's a little, I don't know.
Yeah, you have to suspend disbelief, like.
Right.
Although there's one shot of his hand grabbing her head in a certain way, and yesterday we were watching it again, and I was like, "Oh yeah," and Patrick's just laughing at me about Tom Cruise's hand. But yeah, no, the kissing is always weird. The kissing is weird.
Yeah,
really weird. Should we talk about what the plot is?
Oh,
sure,
that.
Yeah. We jumped right in.
We jumped right. I mean, first of all, because I forgot so much of this movie that like he was in the army, and his friends, first of all, they flagged down a Greyhound bus to get. I forgot about like so the asshole entitlement of him begins right off the bat.
Well, I was just like, dude, why weren't you on time for the bus?
He does what he wants, when he wants. It's all that matters, right? And then he goes to Queens, and that's where he's really from. And then he's working at a shitty bar. And I know I could tell by the subway stops. I'm like, oh, I know where that is. And then
Uncle Pat in the bar.
Uncle Pat at the bar. And Uncle Pat's kind of a dick, but trying to help him out. And he gets the job. He really wants to. He doesn't have a college degree. And there's all that series of him. We've seen this in other movies before, too, like The Secret of My Success, the whole like going on the list of job interviews and you don't have experience. I can't hire you. You blah, blah, blah. And you think like, oh, that's so sad. Like, no, you need experience. You need a degree. It's New York. You know, what do you think?
So 1980s. Those themes are so 1980s to me. Like, right?
I wrote the same thing down, Margo, Secret of My Success syndrome. Like the whole multiple job interviews, but he doesn't seem to have any passion for anything. It's just, I want to get rich.
He just wants to be rich. Says, I like marketing. I like sales. I like computers. I like Wall Street. It's just like he doesn't have anything to focus on. So go ahead.
No, do you know what I caught yesterday, though, that I had never really picked up on? The conversation in the bar with Uncle Pat, I think there's mention of something with like the old house or the old apartment and something about the mom, or he rented out to people. And Tom Cruise has this moment where he says, yeah, I still remember when they repossessed it all or something like that. And I was like, oh, look, they're planting the seed that like, so he grew up really struggling in a family with poverty. So that's like the motivation that he just wants to be secure and successful. And on that bus when they're, playing Wild Again and he's on the bus, right? I'm like, what is with this song? Oh my gosh. But he's on the bus. It's a shot of him reading a book that's called like How to Turn Your Idea into $1 Million or something like that. I don't know. I might have it off, but it's like How to Turn Your Idea into $1 Million. And he's reading it very seriously and his eyebrows go up like, ooh, got ideas. And then there's a shot. They're implying that this is a long bus ride, right? And there's a shot of him like holding somebody else's baby and he's very content and playing. And I'm like, oh, look, they're setting him up. They're setting it up so we'll forgive him later when he makes all these dumb mistakes following his friend around and hurts the women that he actually really cares about, but he does this stupid stuff. But they're kind of like showing us, okay, he struggled with money as a kid and now he wants security, but he's willing to play with the stranger's baby on the bus and entertain the baby. So he's such a nice guy. Like, that's a lot of planning there.
There's a lot they're trying to do because this thing is dipped into misogyny like nobody's business. The women in this film are treated horribly and every single one treated horribly by him. He demands that they give him a second chance or a third chance. And I mean by bursting into their homes or screaming at them. The entitlement of this prick is so upset. This is what I hated Tom Cruise because I felt like, I think he's really like that. I'm not going to see your movie, Mr. Cocktail. No. But he hooks up with Bryan Brown and he becomes a waiter or, bartender, overnight. And you figure he grew up in bars and stuff. He would know how to sling some drinks, but apparently, no, he didn't know how. Did you see Ellen Foley, by the way, with the big hair?
Yes.
She's a blonde with that huge.
Yeah.
She's the one that says she is a bitch.
She is a bitch. Yeah. Right. Because that's a funny line. But she sang with Meatloaf on all those early Meatloaf albums.
I didn't know that.
Like Paradise by the Dashboard Light. Yeah. She has a fantastic singing voice.
Okay.
They should have had her sing.
They should have. Damn it. I mean, that would have been incredible. But he immediately becomes a better bartender. Then they do the whole thing where they're flipping the drink. And everybody says, like, do New York City bartenders do that? I'm like, no.
That's not a thing.
These bars are so. To me, it's like maybe I'm totally wrong, but in my mind as a kid, even it was always such a middle upper class idea of what like middle upper class New York people are like, that they go to these bars with poetry and like such a, there's every type of person and an artist and the whatever. And that I don't know. I'm like, is this real? Does this happen? Like the guy who says, I've got the best saloon in town, you're going to work for me. And then cuts you Cell Block where it's so serious and dark and the blue light and the poetry.
No New Yorker would sit through that poem. That guy that holds the briefcase says, "I'm a yuppie and a poet." They kick the shit out of him. This is not. There's no reality here. I mean, it's also like a gigantic spot. Like, you just want to keep those people drinking. You can't stop the momentum for poetry. But of course, Tom Cruise becomes a bartender quickly. He also becomes a poet quickly. So he immediately has his own poems, and he attracts women. And then that's when he gets Gina Gershon, and their sex scene is so like, what are they doing under that bed? They fly off and
literally rolling in the sheets. And that was, oh my gosh, a moment when first of all, the song that's playing during that sex scene is, oh my gosh, what's it called? We know it. All Shook Up. All Shook Up, but like Ry Cooder, right? Okay.
I did not own the soundtrack, I'll be honest with you.
I owned the soundtrack.
I bet you did.
Grade school, Erika owned the soundtrack, and it's terrible. It is terrible. But like, I think my mom was digging Kokomo because every mom was like Kokomo, and Don't Worry, Be Happy was a huge hit at my grade school.
Yeah.
You know, oh my gosh, yeah, that was just huge. Oh my God, I remember the cassette. But yeah, so that sex scene, I remember my parents had this on once, again, when it was either on cable or VHS or whatever, and I was watching it with them, and I thought they knew I had seen it down the street at Ann's house, but I don't know. And we're watching it, and that scene comes on, and all of a sudden they're like, "Erika, go upstairs, go to your room." What? And they barely show anything. They're just literally rolling around in sheets. It's like,
and she's screaming, "Wow, wow!"
But not in like a hot way, because I don't have like sex going on. It's just like, ha ha, tickle fight.
That's what I said. He was tickling her under the sheets, and that's how they fell out. Because I'm super ticklish too, so it
makes me uncomfortable.
To me.
I will say though. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say both the bars, the first one, what is basically a TGI Fridays, right? And then the second one, Cell Block. I wouldn't want to go to either of those bars. Not even now, where I like kind of miss bars because we're in the middle of a pandemic, but I wouldn't want to go there. And if they were doing the whole show, I'd kind of be, it's almost like, I think we kind of texted about this where I was like, oh, this is like if they added a magician, it would be like my worst nightmare. Like the idea that, first of all, it's super crowded, and then they're like performing for me while they make my drink would make me super awkward. I'd be like, can I just have my drink? Like, please, you don't need to do the thing. You could just pour it in the glass and scoot it over to me would be awesome. Like, I don't want the whole, and now I'm doing the hippie shake. What do you think?
And those drinks taste terrible because they're not measuring a goddamn thing.
They're just such pros. They don't need to.
Right, exactly. And then the addicted to love thing, he brings the volume down and everybody sings along.
Oh my gosh, right.
Screams 80s. It's so 80s. So Gina Gershon owns the brownstone that she lives in, and then Brian, God, his friend Doug, that's his name, Doug Coughlin.
Yeah.
He's older and he's supposed to be wiser and he's supposed to be like a mentor.
But he's always
Tom
drinking
Cruise.
Raw eggs. Don't drink raw eggs, my friends.
No, it's bad for you. Well, he's made a lot of poor choices in his life. Yeah. So why Tom thinks he's the mentor, I don't know. Yeah. Maybe they're just the only people that hang out with each other.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess I have seen people in real life do that, right? I'm even thinking about like how easily people fall for stuff on the internet now. For sure. Like it's just like that was sort of like the real life dude he's trying to sell you his like self-help book that is in his mind, like
right.
Well, he's trying to sell Tom Cruise on his life. He's like, I made the right. It's almost like he's trying to convince himself by trying to convince Tom Cruise that he's doing all the right things and that his life is super awesome.
That scene. So after, though, Tom Cruise goes home from Cell Block with Gina Gershon's character, and they have their wild rumpus and they
have their tickle fight.
Rolling in the sheet. He actually likes her. And he wants to, and then they're dating, and that scene on the basketball court where Tom Cruise is like, no, she is not that kind of girl. And he was like really defending her and seems, so it's like, there's a turning point too, where Doug then says, well, I'm going to win my bet, or I'm going to show him that women can be, it's such a, now I think about it now, it's so gross. It always made me, even as a kid, I was so grossed out by Doug doing that. Like, you intentionally lied to her about your friend to get her on your side, and then you sleep with her and then kiss her in front of Tom Cruise at the bar to win your bet, but even more so just to be right, just to show that you know more, or that you're the wise one. Like, I know women will mess you up, you know, like, you don't want to go in for love, you want to just date one later for money, right? Because that's what he's doing eventually,
right?
But it's so gross to me that
it's super gross, and Tom Cruise doesn't learn anything from it, because gee, it really sucks when people cheat on you and dump you, and then he just does it to adorable
for a bet.
Yeah, for a bet, for the stupidest reason ever.
Stupidest thing.
So
for like randoms
stupid.
at the bar, at the beach bar. These randoms. It's like, oh my god,
it's so stupid.
Well, so then they go to Jamaica. It is Jamaica, right?
Yeah.
That's okay. And they go to Jamaica, and Tom Cruise is a very popular bartender. And their meet cute as Elizabeth Shue shows up and says, "Hey, my friend's dying on the beach. Somebody help me." So he just jumps over, and he doesn't give her water or anything. He just kind of looks like, "She's all right. She's all right. Just call an ambulance."
Yeah.
But Elizabeth Shue is so gorgeous with like her sun-kissed fit tan and her hair and everything. And so she shows up the next day to thank him. And then they start their little romance, and they look cute together. I mean, they really do look, you know, like they're having a good time. But that's when Bryan, but then Bryan Brown shows up, and he's like, "Oh, I could screw up my friend again."
Yeah.
So, but he also shows up with a wife, and it's like, he acts like he's just like so downtrodden because he got married. We got married to a rich woman, so he's finally giving up his freedom for this. And it's like, it's Kelly Lynch. Like, who's better looking than Kelly Lynch? Like, she's all that and rich, and she loves you.
Yeah.
What are you bitching about?
Right. Did she love him? Are we supposed to think she did love him in the beginning?
Yes. And then
but by the end, she's like, "Why would I want to be with one man? How can you expect me to?"
Right.
But I guess in the beginning,
hates women. This movie hates women. It's all the Madonna whore thing. There's no in between. You know, Tom Cruise, of course, cheats on Elizabeth to be with this older lady who's only like a few years older than him, but they make it seem like this big thing. But he goes back to New York.
He doesn't even like her. He just, it's to win the bet. And then he, of course, feels like shit. But like, it's like, no, Elizabeth Shue, because Elizabeth Shue could smell Doug's bullshit right away, which I did like. There's very subtle like reactions when she's sitting at the bar and he's talking and like, you know, making those comments to Tom Cruise, and Elizabeth Shue's face, she's on the side of the screen, and her reactions are so subtle but so great. I thought, you know, like you could just tell she gets it and is not into it.
She's smart.
Yeah.
Until the end. Until the end.
Should have been on birth control, but okay. So Tom Cruise dumps Elizabeth Shue, goes back to New York City, lives with this woman who's doing aerobics at like 7 a.m. Like all these 80s things. Like I'm just like, holy shit balls. And my mom used to work out to that tape, by the way. It's Kathy Smith, Low Impact.
Oh my gosh. I remember. My Blockbuster that I used to work at had a lot of Kathy Smith.
But so she doesn't give him a job right away, which puts him out. You know, he wants him to hire her, like her to give him a job, but instead he's like her escort to things, and she has him hold her coat or something, and he acts like an asshole to the sculptor and gets into a fight.
I didn't think Bonnie deserved this.
No, and she winds up apologizing to him. You know, he throws a fit, he ruins art. I mean, it's not great art, but you know, what is the problem? He's like a man-child. Gets outside.
Oh, he is. He's like drunk,
squatting on the sidewalk, like blah blah blah. You know, all this crap. She starts apologizing to him.
That's crazy.
And then he gives her the key to hit the place. Like, I'm dumping you now because I got to do it on my own. I'm like, she should have kicked the shit out of him, kicked him out.
Although I did get the impression that she kind of like, because after their little tryst down on the beach, you know, when he's all upset that Elizabeth Shue flew back to New York in the middle of the night, and he's just kind of like, lying in his room, and she comes in, and he's like, kind of just talking or whatever. And she like, oh, what did she say? She's like, what have you done to me? You can't let me go now or something. I don't know. So it's like she wanted this little boy toy plaything.
Yes.
But then didn't like when he acted like a boy toy plaything.
Yeah.
What were you expecting exactly,
True.
But even all that stuff at the art show was like, to me, again, as a kid, oh, this is so like 1980s. Even I was just like so hyper aware of it, even though I probably didn't really know what I was thinking. I didn't know enough as a kid, but it made sense to me that it's like, oh, we're looking at the rich people at the art show, and like the way they depicted everything was just so exaggerated, right? Like,
yes,
right.
Oh my,
it's super exaggerated. I'm sure. Well, maybe Margo goes to art shows like that all the time. Do you, Margo?
Tell us, Margo.
I stopped going because fights kept breaking out, and it got me very uncomfortable.
Inevitably, Bonnie shows up with her boy toy, and a fight breaks out. Damn it, Bonnie.
You can't even look at the art anymore. No. It's too aggressive for me, too aggro.
It's just artists flying around, being pushed around.
You know
it's so absurd.
We passed over when Doug gives Brian Flanagan his idea for Cocktails and Dreams.
Oh, yeah.
No, Jesus, that title. Cocktails and Dreams.
What?
What?
I have to at least give the movie credit that at the end, when he has the neon sign, spoilers, sorry everyone, but at the end when he does have the bar, it's the neon sign in the window, but it's not actually the name of the bar, which I appreciated.
It's called
it's
like
just
Flanagan's or whatever.
Flanagan's, which you've got that Irish last name. It works. There's probably a Flanagan's in every town, but
that's true.
Right.
But at least it was just the little like sign and not the name of the place. Because oh my gosh,
it's a terrible name.
It's awful.
Oh, I'm glad they didn't name the movie that, although is Cocktail much better, but
yeah, that's a good point. But so that's when he's starting to look for Elizabeth Shue again. And like everybody's in New York, right? So he's looking for her. Turns out she lives she's working at her job. He's annoying her there. She's a waitress. So then she dumps a bunch of food on him, which would get her fired in a second anywhere else. But in New York, we're supposed to be like, that's just how she hit. And then
Characters.
He's like, yeah,
that's New York.
Back, that's New York for you. What are you gonna do? So she comes. So then at the end of her shift, he's all cleaned up again. He went home and that chicken chop suey's off of him.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I gotta talk to you. She's like, no, gotta talk to you. No. She goes, all right, fine. Walk me home and take me to my apartment where I live alone right now.
What could go wrong?
He takes her to her loft. It turns out she's an artist. I mean, there's big paintings and stuff. But
didn't she draw him on the beach?
Yeah, she draws
a couple things.
Yeah, she drew a picture of him on the beach. And then they have this whole like, that doesn't look like me, and then they wrestle. There's a lot of wrestling in this movie.
There's a lot of wrestling. Yeah, she had on some like wide leg pants over her black swimsuit during that scene.
I think that was the only swimsuit she brought with her there, if I'm thinking correctly.
And in the waterfall scene, when they're doing it, she throws it on a random rock that's part of the waterfall.
Yeah.
And my thought is like, well, hopefully it'll stay there and she can grab it. But when he takes off his swim trunks, he literally just like throws them up, and it's like, that is gone. That is in the
That's it for you.
In the ocean, wherever that's gone. You're not getting your swim trunks back. So, but hey, Elizabeth Shue,
Yeah.
But anyway, okay, wait, we were back in New York.
Yeah. No. So they have an argument. He's like, take me back. I had to cheat on you because it was a bet. Don't you get it? It was a bet. Please forgive me. You got to forget. Like super aggro. And she's like, get the fuck out. He gets out.
I wrote in my notes.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I wrote in my notes, like, he says, it's not as bad as it seems. And then he describes it. And I was like, dude, it's so much worse. It's so much worse. Like, like, you're such a stupid asshole.
Like, he just is trying to prove himself. It's so sad.
Sorry, Margo, I interrupted you.
No, it's okay. It's like I'm also like recounting this to myself because I can't believe this is all in the same movie. But turns out
I know.
there's so much going on here.
There's so much more to come too.
Exactly. So he goes back to confront her again to demand that she take it back, and her artist neighbor is like, she's not there. She's with her parents. Want to know what the address is? I could tell you right now, because you're just some guy that won't go away. That's a good idea.
Yeah,
and
nice
so
neighbor.
He goes, great neighbor. So he goes to 67th and Park, which is a very Upper East Side shishi address, and bullies his way into the elevator up to her penthouse apartment, gets into a fight with her dad, demanding that she come out and meet him, demanding that she see him. He's still entitled. And the dad gives him a check for 10 grand, which was not a classy move, but
bye, Dad. I thought it was 25, but I think I'm
10.
Wrong. 10? Yeah. Like, that's not that much money. I mean, it's a lot. I would love to get that money for free, but thinking about the way that they were making them seem so rich, right? Mm-hmm. And even the actor who plays him, doesn't he look like Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous?
Yeah.
I thought that was
he looks like Robin Leach.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
I just thought that was, I wondered if that was intentional. So like with all that money, it's like 10,000. That's it.
And Elizabeth Shue winds up getting mad. Look, the men have to make all the choices for the women. The women aren't given any agency over themselves at all. But so Elizabeth Shue's now mad at her father for bribing this guy, her dad, who's been taking care of her. And it turns out she's pregnant.
Yeah.
And from their magical waterfall.
Waterfall sex will do that to you.
Yeah, it's true. She might have been on birth control, but you can't fight that. You can't fight that.
Don't go chasing waterfalls.
Yeah,
don't go chasing waterfalls.
When you have waterfall sex, birth control it fails. It's one of the things. It's one of the side effects.
It causes twins.
Yeah, it causes twins.
But she takes him back remarkably quickly, like forgives him remarkably quickly. But there's also the thing with Bryan Brown, like now he's living on a boat and he and his wife, like she wants an open marriage and he's throwing her to him to her, like go fuck her because she really wants you to do it and she thinks you're really good at it. And then Tom Cruise feels cheap. Oh no, I'm not here for that. So then he takes off and he's going back to Paul, is his name? Doug.
Yeah.
And then Doug dies by suicide.
This movie's so weird.
It's so dark and weird.
It's so dark, yeah. And at that moment, I'm like, oh my gosh, remember when this was Cocktails on the Beach? And remember when this was supposed to be to be young guy trying to figure out his life. And then it was waterfall sex. And now we're in this dark, houseboat. And when there's like a cut from when he finds him and he's screaming, help, and he's screaming. And then it cuts to like the back of the coroner's truck, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at just that moment, I'm like, oh my gosh, imagine being the audience, summer of 1988, this movie that, I mean, it was just the most gigantic hit. And all of a sudden you're just brought to this part. To me, it was like, wow, they really got away with a lot. I don't know.
This movie is, so let's go back to 1988. You couldn't get away from that fucking song Kokomo. It was everywhere, right? Everywhere.
Right.
I really, really hate the song when it comes on the radio. I want to drive off the bridge.
Jamaica.
No! So, but the video was all the time too. And it was like the Beach Boys and like John Stamos playing the drums and like women in bikinis and, you see that. And
I don't know. People loved it.
They did. No, they did.
They did.
Like my mom and my aunts are still like probably like Kokomo's a great song. Like it's made for them, and that's fine. I just don't like it. It's not.
Think about
it's not for me.
Do you remember, Sonia?
Back with that.
Do you remember, Sonia? I don't. You're not a football fan, right? You weren't into the 49ers.
I know who the 49ers are.
In 1988, 89. They were amazing.
Yes.
It was Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, like they were a big team full of stars. And somebody when they went to the Super Bowl, I guess it would be in 89, somebody took Kokomo and they called it Go Joe Mo. And it was a whole pride thing about the 49ers going to the Super Bowl.
Wow. I feel like we need to find that.
I think I'm going to have to go to YouTube to find it because they say when you get something stuck in your head, that's the only way to get rid of it is to listen to it a few times. So I think I have to because I've been thinking about that. It just popped like, go Niners, go Joe Mo.
That's so... No, Margo, why do you do this to me?
That might be cornier than the Super Bowl shuffle for the 85, 86 Bears, because at least that was original writing.
Yeah. I love the Super Bowl shuffle. I think that's fantastic.
I like the SNL version where it's just like all the kickers and they're like, we're kickers. We kicked the ball. We kicked the ball. So my point was that video was like a trailer for the movie that was on every hour on the hour on MTV and VH1 and all of that. And it looks like this kind of romantic drama, you know, with like they're frolicking on the beach and aren't they in love? And then for some reason they're not together and then they are. And then you see the movie and you're like, what the fuck is this? Like,
it's depressing. It just gets so sad. And then there's the funeral scene, and then he's back at Pat's bar in Queens, and he's trying to figure his shit out.
Makes him really realize what's important in life.
Yeah, he does, which means he's got to go back and harass Elizabeth Shue, and marry her. Yeah, and they get married in a bar, which I'm sure her family was thrilled with. But she's going to do this on her own now.
They disowned her.
Rebelling.
Yes. Yeah. And Ellen Foley showed up for the wedding, which I loved, with even bigger hair than she had before.
Yeah,
always makes me happy. Love that. It just puts a smile on my face. And that's when he does a poem, because we needed one more goddamn poem in this movie. By God. And then she's like, I bet I could freak you out right now. And then she says,
the last line of the poem, and I promise I'll never get spooked again. Right? Yep. That's the last line of the poem.
Yes.
I bet I could spook you.
I bet I can spook you. Oh my gosh.
And then he just goes, twins?
Twins! Wait, doesn't he say, drinks are in the house? And then the uncle's like, no. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, but all of last night after watching this, Petra and I kept saying, the bar is open.
Yes.
Is that really the last line of the bar is open? And then, like, that's it? That's a black?
Yeah.
Or what?
Yeah.
That's it. Because I'm replaying it in my head going, wait, the bar was open. Wasn't it open? Isn't that the whole point? They're all there?
They were already there. Wasn't the bar already open?
I don't know.
It's just such a weird ending for a movie that has a suicide and like, yay, the bar's open.
Before we got to that houseboat part that led to Kelly Lynch's, reveal of wanting to not be with just one guy and then the suicide. Before that part, it was like, okay, all this stuff has happened and that's still coming. I cannot believe that's still coming in this movie. There's roller coaster.
There's also a thing where like the wife, Bryan Brown's wife, sends him the letter that he wrote to Bryan before he killed himself. And then we get like tearful Tom Cruise reading the letter, and it's in Bryan Brown's voice, and it's my dearest Bryan, blah 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 blah, and then there's like was it Conlon's Law, don't listen to him because he's always been full of shit, and then it's like ha 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 ha, and then I kept wondering like, is the ha 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 in the letter? Is Tom Cruise reading that part too? Or is he just imagining what it was like? I don't know. And then it says, ha, 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 ha.
I'm dead now, by the way. Bye.
Peace out.
Such a bizarre movie.
That poem at the end, at the opening of the bar, Flanagan's. Oh, I guess maybe is that why the bar's not open? Because it's like a big declaration, like I finally opened my bar that I want to have in every suburban shopping mall, which I was like, oh, you know what? That would have been really successful for a couple decades and they'd all be gone now. They'd all be gone.
True.
But the ending, the name of that poem was Flanagan's advice to his unborn child, right?
Mm-hmm.
The wedding song, and they're dancing and singing, is When Will I Be Loved by the Everly Brothers, right?
Yes.
That song is not on the soundtrack. And I legit like that song.
Yeah.
And
Everly Brothers are great, yeah.
Yeah, and every time it comes on, like if we're out, if I'm out with like the family or whatever, if it comes out in like a restaurant or whatever, wherever, I always go into full cocktail mode, and then I try to make my husband harmonize with me.
Do you announce a poem to the whole audience, to everybody in the restaurant?
Who here has seen Cocktail? Let's talk. No. But that song is not on the soundtrack. And do you know what other song is not on the soundtrack?
Addicted to Love.
Oh, are you right about that? Yes.
I don't know. I'm
They
just
couldn't get the rights to that.
Yeah, I'm like, that song was totally popular.
Right, which is crazy because that was huge, right? So how is that on? No, but you know what else? Shelter of Your Love by Jimmy Cliff, which is the waterfall scene. It's the love theme of the movie.
Why is that not on the soundtrack?
Right, Shelter, isn't that the waterfall? I mean, that's
because it comes up a couple of times.
Right, I know that and then there's like a sad instrumental version too, like when in New York City, I think, or like looking at her through the window and stuff. Yeah, but those I'm shocked that those songs were not on the soundtrack. Although soundtracks used to do that a lot, right?
Yeah.
They couldn't get the rights, or for whatever reason they leave off a couple.
I'm a little disappointed they didn't just get like a whole like cocktail themed soundtrack, kind of like Prince did for Batman.
Yes.
That's what they should have done.
I would have liked Prince doing Cocktail. What would that have been? That would have been a lot of
Cocktail dance.
That waterfall scene would have taken on a whole new thing.
Capes.
You know, I read that they got Maya Angelou to write all the poems in this movie. That's why they're so good.
The budget for this movie was, let's see, according to Wikipedia, which could be wrong, the budget was about $20 million, but it made $171 million.
One of those movies, because Tom Cruise is a star. It had a hit song.
He is the biggest star.
Yeah, you could play that anywhere in the world and dub it, and you won't miss a thing. You know what I mean? There's nothing deep going on here, but it has a full story to it. My sister was in Spain for most of the 90s, and she was just like, there's certain American stars that people will just go see. Doesn't matter. Yeah. And this is, I bet this movie is perfect for that. I bet this is a great airplane movie. Like if you're just killing some time on a flight somewhere, I think this would be amazing.
Yes. And think about the year. So, I mean, Tom Cruise is coming off of Top Gun, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then at the end, so this came out in July of 88, and December of 88 was Rain Man.
Yeah.
So his career at that time, there were few people, I think, who was there. I mean, there were so many big actors at the time. I mean, it was such a star system in a way. People were just going, I'll go see any Eddie Murphy, any Bruce Willis, any Tom Cruise. But Tom Cruise was like one of the younger ones. I feel like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he was the same age as all those other guys.
He's a little younger.
Because, this movie, I found something that said like the ages of all of them when they filmed this. I think Elizabeth Shue was 25. For some reason, I figured she was in her 30s. Same with Tom Cruise's character. I don't know why I had these ideas in my head. And Bryan Brown was, I think, early 40s maybe when he filmed.
Gosh.
And I would have told you he was 60. Like, and I'm not because he looks older necessarily.
I would have guessed in his 50s.
Yeah, it's right. It's just like how old you are when you watch something and the character's older. So then they're like always older than you.
Yes.
Well, this is also when Tom Cruise was married to his first wife, Mimi Rogers.
Oh, yeah.
And at this time is when he starts studying Scientology and he starts getting into it. So there's a lot going on with Tom.
I was never happy with that marriage, by the way. As a child in the 80s, and
really?
a fan of Tom Cruise, I was not a fan of their. Yeah, no, I just thought like she just didn't do it for me at that time, and I feel bad about that now. But at the time,
yeah, you were jealous.
At the time, you thought.
Brain.
At the time, you thought he was really in love with Elizabeth Shue.
That should have happened.
The Bryan and Jordan will be together forever.
Well, and then Mimi Rogers gave an interview where I think, oh, wait, no, maybe I'm wrong. Was it Mimi Rogers or was it from Top Gun? I can't remember, but I thought it was Mimi Rogers who, like, after they divorced, said he was a bad kisser. I could be wrong on that, though. But
he said he wouldn't have sex with her.
Oh.
Like, he became very monastic.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know if she's still in Scientology. I think she got out of it.
She's the one who got him into it, though, right?
Yeah, she does. And she was friends with, like, Kirstie Alley and with, like, a bunch of people that got him into it. And now he's been in it pretty much ever since.
I know. See, I have to suspend all of that. Like, I have to just ignore all of that to enjoy
the movie.
To enjoy anything, right? Because, I mean, earlier, earlier you mentioned Mission Impossible, right? And I mean,
Yeah.
I quote, I like reference in a very genuine way Mission Impossible movies, specifically Ghost Protocol and Rogue Nation, but I reference them all the time, like in a real, genuine, not being funny way.
No, I love those movies. I think he's really exciting in them. But then I'm really upset with him being a part of a cult that like has people that are being abused. I'm sorry.
Right.
And he could go, but you know, he's also like one of those sheltered people. He doesn't have to go on the internet if he doesn't want to. I'm sure he doesn't answer email. I'm sure he doesn't know how to use Instagram or anything. Like I'm sure and that's a way for him to not have to know things. And so that's another part of me that gets irritated. Like, you're an adult, learn something.
Right. And I never got the impression, like so again, here I am outing myself. Like I read every single, when he was People Magazine's Sexiest Man of the Year, because my mom subscribed to People. And even as like, seriously, as soon as I could start reading, like very young age, I would look at her People Magazine and then I would read them front to back all the time. Like I look at my own kids who are in grade school now, I'm like, they would never pick up People Magazine and read the whole thing ever. But I used to do that. I also used to read the TV Guide from front to back.
I did that
too.
Yeah. But I was obsessed with, so when he was Sexiest Man of the Year, I loved that cover. I can still see in my head what picture they used on the cover. And so I always got the impression, though, from reading interviews and watching anytime he was on TV, oh my gosh, that he was a really nice, like genuinely nice person. I think he genuinely like seemed to care about others and doing good, right? But he was also maybe not the smartest.
No, he's not the sharpest tool in the shed.
That's the impression I always got.
How dare you quote Smash Mouth on this show, Margo?
No, I've always had that. I had that kind of feeling as well. And I think a lot of Scientologists, the ones that leave, like Leah Remini, like that, they say that when they're in it, they're told all the time, you are going to help save the world, the planet. What you're doing is so important. And so I think he's kind of dumb and egotistical enough to think like, well, yeah, I've got to learn this because it's only going to be me. And look, we could all be victims of flattery.
Well, and what's the personality type of the person who then maybe genuinely like falls for that and it really truly thinks, oh my gosh, I'm going to help change lives, I'm going to make things better, right? But then after many years and they are presented with legit information that what they believed was wrong, there's those certain personality types who can't let go of that. Like it's too much. Is it ego? Is it just truly like, I don't want to admit I was wrong or I'm still not smart enough? What is it that they can't say, oh my gosh, I was wrong believing this. I'm so sorry. I'm going to, try to make amends for it or whatever. I think about that with just cults in general. And even now, when you look at our world with people believing theories and stuff.
That's what's going on right now. Right now, it's just people who like admitting that you were wrong is like the hardest thing to do.
Right.
It's, that's exactly what's happening.
I feel like if we can just somehow figure out how to teach that it's okay to say, oh my gosh, I believed this thing for 10 years. It turns out I was wrong. Or I did this thing. It turns out I was wrong. If we could just somehow teach that, I feel like things would start to get slightly better.
Right.
I hope. I don't know. That needs...
Yeah.
Going back to the movie really quickly, do you know, because I did not know, despite seeing this movie 5,000 times, I did not know it was based on a book.
Oh, I didn't either till I started reading.
I didn't either.
Yeah. The screenwriter. Yeah, he based it on his book. He was a bartender in the late 70s, early 80s. There's remarkably, by the way, no drugs being taken. And I'm telling you, as somebody who went to New York City bars, there's a lot of drugs.
I was like, oh, this is based on a book? What? This is okay. I never knew that, so I didn't have a chance to read the source material. It might be interesting or not.
Also, this movie sometimes is so poorly directed. There's just scenes where like he's doing on all the job interviews or he's getting the drinks and people are all of a sudden just screaming directly into the camera. Oh, yeah. I need my beer now. You don't have experience. But like it's so cheesy and bad and like not original. Yeah. Ugh.
Some of the choices made seem like a kid's movie or just like it seems like the entire thing's going to be this like dumb comedy, right? And
that's why this movie's such a, then it's like, well, then there's suicide and pregnancy and the friend that drinks too much and almost dies on the beach, or
But then it's funny because in the ambulance she's like, I'm gonna puke. Oh, that whole like little thing. Waterfall sex.
Yeah.
Tickling.
By the way,
New York Deli.
Yeah. So from now on, whenever I see someone with twins, I'm going to be like, waterfall sex. I'll walk up to them and be like, waterfall sex, huh? Mm-hmm. I've seen Cocktail. I know.
We know how that works. Oh my God.
Do you think Bryan and Jordan are still together?
No.
I love your reaction, Margo. You're like, LOL, no.
Not a chance in hell. She gets her shit together at some point because he's going to be at that bar all the time working. He's going to fall for some dumb waitress or dumb whatever that shows up because he's got now 2 kids and a wife. I think her parents are going to start to pick up the slack and pay the bills for things. And she's going to realize, I made a really huge judgment call here. I'm not even 30 yet, but I'm adorable. I can get anybody I want. I'm out.
And then she goes to Vegas.
Maybe Flanagan's Bar starts, like being the sponsor for the little league teams, and then their kids play baseball or something, and he's their coach. And then I don't know where else to go with that. I don't think, no.
See, I'm thinking this is in the same cinematic universe as Leaving Las Vegas, and that she leaves him and goes to Vegas.
Oh.
And hangs out with Nicolas Cage until he dies.
Yeah.
I've actually really been wanting to rewatch that for a while because we were on a Nick Cage run for a while here, but we didn't rewatch that, so it's been on my mind.
It's a downer of a movie.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Gosh.
No way. It's hilarious. It also has Kokomo in it. No, it doesn't. It really doesn't.
How great would it be if it had Don't Worry, Be Happy? As Elizabeth Shue's walking down the street as a prostitute.
Oh, that movie. I don't think I could rewatch it, actually. I think it's too much of a bummer. Maybe next year.
Yeah.
That's my answer to everything. Maybe next year.
Yeah.
Actually, I think I want that on a T-shirt. Let's arrange that. Maybe next year.
Maybe next year. That's a good idea. I'm gonna write
That's a really good idea. Write it down.
Write it down.
Do that. We can figure that out. Someone can make the shirts with us, for us.
Yeah. I'm like, I'll put it in the merch shop. Maybe next year.
Yeah.
See you next year.
I mean, this year really has been such a downer, like we were talking earlier.
Yeah.
It's just one hit after the other. And then if there's like a moment of like happiness or hope, the next day something awful happens,
Yeah.
Which brings us to our bummer, which was last night Chadwick Boseman died, and I know we all wanted to talk about it on the show because it was such a punch in the gut.
Yeah.
Like so unexpected, and he was so awesome. Like such a move. He was going to be like, I just felt like he was one of those actors that we were going to be watching for a really long time.
Yes.
And that he would always be super awesome, that he was going to win like 1 million awards if you care about awards. Like he seemed like that actor to me. Like,
right.
Just
and a leader in other ways. Like he used his voice for important and worthy things. And even some of the videos that are going around now that, maybe we didn't all get to see him on every single press, tour or interview or whatever. It's more incredible than I even knew. And I thought, I already thought he was amazing, right? He just was unique and special, and he radiated strength and bravery. And I'm not even talking about the parts he played or the fact that he was doing all of these amazing things while he was sick, because we didn't know that, but he still was radiating that, that energy. It's really such a huge loss. I know we were, texting like cocktail jokes, and then all of a sudden, we all just felt, right, like knocked over.
We were just knocked over, just a punch in the gut, because and then I just went down like a whole rabbit hole, and I know Margo did too, because she was like posting videos and stuff, but also just the way he embraced playing Black Panther, doing the Black Panther character and like how he interacted with the community around that movie, or just and then seeing him even like
and
at
children,
or walking the red carpet or whatever, and he would do the like Wakanda forever, and like how he embraced that. It wasn't someone that was like, well, I'm trying to think of the right way. It's like, I feel like sometimes actors sign up for these movies and then they try to distance themselves from these kind of characters, but he didn't. He really embraced it. And he was just so good. Like, he played Jackie Robinson. He played James Brown. He played Thurgood Marshall. Like, it takes a special person to play these kind of special people, and he was that. He was just my husband walked. He was in Draft Day, so of course I thought of Adam Risky.
Oh, yeah, I know, right.
My husband walked into the room and was like, Chadwick Boseman died, and I was like, liar. I'm like, you're not funny. And he's like, no, it really happened. And he's like, prepare yourself. And I was like,
when news like this comes out, right, and depending on what platform you're paying attention to at the time, or whatever you're doing, or the way that my husband said, wait, oh my gosh, and he kind of acted this way, and then I that always makes me nervous. I'm like, what, because I have no idea, right? Did like family text you? Did what happened? Like something? And so he said, this can't be true. And then he said it, and I was like, he goes, no, this can't be true. Like, because there have been times before, right, where something comes out, and like, and so we really were in disbelief for like 10 seconds before then. He said, oh no, this happened. We were just in shock,
And it's crazy to me that he was doing like chemotherapy and all these surgeries for colon cancer while he was making all of these movies. Like,
and doing the press for them.
Exactly. I'm like, as someone who has gone through surgeries and chemo, I'm like, I can't comprehend the strength it must have taken to do those things. Like, I'm like, that's insane. I remember like going to like a baseball game when I was doing chemo. I was fucking exhausted. It took me like 3 days to recover. And he's out like filming things like Black Panther. Like, it's super physical.
And I don't know if anybody knew. Do you get the impression that anybody even knew on set?
I don't think so.
Because that's like, if you are going to be doing that sort of grueling work, but the people around and so maybe they're like helping you out or cutting you breaks, or who knows. But if no one knows, that's even a whole nother layer of how you have to keep up every part of that energy, right? Like, even just going in your trailer for your own personal break, you have to like present a certain way, right? I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. But I wonder if the studio knew, because they always have to do like a physical before you can do those things, just in case something like this happens. So I'm sure maybe some people knew, but he was at stage 3, and then he's been treating it, and then it just recently turned to stage 4, and he also just recently got married because he realized. I know. I was like, oh, for God's sakes, fuck cancer.
I read. Yeah, I know, right?
So awful. He was such a movie star.
Yeah.
And he was funny too. Like, Margo, you shared the video of him on SNL where they did Black Jeopardy. And there's this amazing clip.
Raisins.
Yeah, she'll put something stupid in it, like raisins, and just his delivery is so, like, what was it? Like, oh, hell no, Karen, keep your tasteless potato salad at home, or whatever. Like, the delivery is so funny. Like, he's just such a talented man. It's such a huge loss. Such a huge loss. That makes me sad.
No, it's just awful. And it just feels unfair. It feels wrong. Anytime somebody passes away, it's awful and a tragedy. And, even if it's someone who, let's say you don't, agree with politically or something, it's still awful. But this feels just so wrong, right? Like, so wrong. Like, I don't know.
He was so young.
Yeah.
43.
And just was representing something that so many like people that we in America are trying to fight for, and He just, I don't know, it feels wrong. It feels like something was stolen from everyone. I don't know. Yeah.
That's a really good way of putting it. It feels like someone stole from us. It sucks.
Right. I know that sometimes people say, oh, you don't know this Hollywood actor. Why should you be sad? It's like, well, because I care about people. And if someone's a very good person, I care about the world losing that, like anyway, right.
And they're artists and their art speaks to us and it's a part of us and we enjoy it. And when they're not here anymore, it's fucking sad.
Yeah.
Right.
Why are you sad that this person you don't know died? Because I'm not a monster?
Exactly. That's such a rude question.
Right.
Such a bullshit question.
It is so weird.
Sonia.
Yeah.
I don't know if you picked top movies from
I
88.
did.
Because I also picked top songs. Can we do that? Like end on a happy note?
Yeah, let's end on a happy note.
Okay.
All right. So number 10 was top 10 movies of 1988. Number 10, The Naked Gun.
Yep. I remember.
I fucking love The Naked Gun, and I often list it as my favorite baseball movie. Die Hard.
Love Die Hard.
Oh, yes.
This is a really good list. Margo has thoughts and feelings about this movie. Big. If y'all haven't heard the episode of Margo and Patrick on F This Movie talking about Big, do yourself a favor and download it right now because it's really, really
so
good.
Funny.
Cocktail was one of the top 10 movies, obviously.
Wow.
A Fish Called Wanda.
Great movie. I haven't seen it in a long time, though.
I haven't seen it in a long
holds up.
time, but
we rewatched it a couple years ago, and I think we saw it actually in a theater when we went to Austin. I think they were doing a special screening of it. When we just went to Austin in summer of 2019, and so it was 5 years before that. So 2014, I think we went to special screening, and it was fun.
I love that movie. It is really fun. This one's not as fun. Rambo 3.
Yes.
I don't know if I've seen Rambo 3.
Some people
I don't think I have either.
Some people might think it's fun. I don't know.
Yeah.
Number 5, Twins.
Oh.
Yep.
That's from Waterfall Sex. Number 4 is Crocodile Dundee 2.
Not as fun as the first one.
I remember really liking the first one.
I think the first one. I think the second one doesn't really hold up.
I don't think I saw the second one. Yeah.
And then the number 3 is Coming to America.
Great movie.
Coming to America. That's on our list.
Yeah.
Another one of my favorites from that time and ever.
Yeah.
Number 2 is Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Great movie.
Yes. What a year.
It's a good year. I love it.
Yeah.
Actually, I need to show Calvin Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I think it would blow his mind. And then number 1 was Rain Man.
Oh my God. Yeah, that movie was very popular.
Isn't that crazy?
I remember
to me
at that time.
that movie would be the number 1 movie of the year. That's insane.
I mean,
Hoffman.
And again, Rain Man, I know we talked about, Cocktail, the budget not being huge, and then they made so much money. Rain Man, according to on whatever I Googled, Rain Man's budget was $25 million, and it made $355 million.
Wow.
Insane. Because it's drama. It's a drama.
Right.
Like, a drama is
For-
not the number
for
1
adults.
movie.
No,
Yeah.
right. I miss this time, though, when things could be for, adults sometimes only, or for many different people.
Mm-hmm.
I have to feel like Rain Man, obviously, like, buzz started growing with that movie, but Dustin Hoffman combined with Tom Cruise, right? Think about the rise of Tom Cruise, and then Dustin Hoffman already is a star. I feel like just those names got people into the theaters.
I think so, too.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah. So do you guys want to hear some of the top songs of 88?
Sure.
Yeah.
These are some of my favorites. Phil Collins, A Groovy Kind of Love. I love that song.
Kind of love.
Billy Ocean, Get Out of My Dreams. Get into my car. Love that song.
I actually do that song. I sing it sometimes around the house as a joke whenever I'm feeling like really cheesy. Like I'll sing it to my husband. Like, get out of my dreams.
Tracy Chapman, Fast Car.
Oh, that's such a good song.
Great song. Yeah. I love this song. Erasure, A Little Respect. I love Erasure.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I love Erasure.
And for Erika, last one here is going to be Prince, Alphabet Street. I love that song.
My gosh, yes.
Prince. I love that song too.
Thank you. I know. Yeah. Everything you just named just brought me back. I mean, I know we all get nostalgic like that, right? But really, this is why art is so important and so great, right? It just connects us immediately. Like I just had like happy flashbacks to childhood in ways that like I just haven't had in a while because I haven't thought about it, right? But I could see like myself walking in my neighborhood with the sun shining, like just right now you naming those songs. Or like driving around, or driving around like, I was an age where I'm being driven around by my mother all the time, right? Because I am a kid. So just being in the car and like even her loving that song, right? It's just, oh my gosh, love it.
This was my first summer working at the movie theater. So I'm thinking about all that time I spent like slinging popcorn and like meeting new people. I was really shy. I was a really shy person. So it was like hard for me to talk to people, and it just like really coming out of my shell. So you're listing all those songs and I'm just remembering like, oh yeah, I was like really starting to like figure it out, like coming out of my shell at the time. And yeah, it's so funny because it's like people are like, you were shy, and I'm like, and now I host like 2 podcasts and people can't shut me up. Like I talk so much.
I love it. I know I was going to say, I can't imagine you being shy, but then I stopped myself because people always have ideas of us and we never know somebody's full, complete picture, right? Like, I remember having a conversation once in my office at work, and I said something about being an introvert. And one of my coworkers said, "You are not an introvert." And I was like, well, actually, I'm very friendly, but I am very introvert. Like, I just want to stay home and be by myself and like watch my movies and read my books and, like, and so I know that's not the only, characteristic, but so I call myself the friendliest introvert because I am very friendly. And I have almost like a problem with like wanting other people to feel comfortable. So I will like force them, like if 2 people are around me and they don't know each other, but I know both of them, I will introduce them because I'm so hyper aware of the fact that they might be uncomfortable not knowing this other person who I'm talking to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. Oh, yeah. I remember when I met you and Patrick for dinner, we've been friends for years. So yeah, but immediately, like, as soon as you walked in, I could just feel like you were really going over, like, we are really friends and we really know each other and we're here for you. And it was so great. It was so much fun. Sorry, Sonia. I wish you were there.
I know. One day, Sonia. I know. One day. That was so fun. I love that we got to do that. And then I know you were going to come out to Chicago for a friend's wedding, right?
I was going to be the, what's the word I'm thinking of? I was going to marry them. The officiant, thank you. But they had to cancel, and they're setting it up for next fall, and they're hoping next fall it'll happen. But everybody, like, as soon as we were going into lockdown mode, stay at home mode, a lot of us thought maybe it'll be a month or 2 tops. So it's become this big shock. But I have a friend that's extremely extroverted, and I'm introverted like you are, and we had lunch the other day, a socially distanced lunch, and she's like, you kind of super enjoy this sometimes, don't you? I'm like, oh my God, I don't have to make plans. I don't have to be a part of anything. I'm not being rude. I can just stay home, read my book.
You don't have to politely decline.
Yes. I don't have to come up with an illness or an injury that all of a sudden, like, I was like, I kind of do. It's just like, I'm reading more than ever. But of course, like, people died. That's not cool. I want people to get back to work. I want people to get, their lives going again. But there's some parts of this being home has been amazing to me.
That's my husband. He's like, I've been preparing for this my whole life.
Oh, yes.
He's like, I have 200 board games here. I'm totally fine. Like, he's totally set. And I'm the one that's like, this is hard.
Oh my gosh. I'm so glad though, Sonia, that you have the podcast, and you've always been somebody, like, the first time we ever heard from you or read anything that you even commented or wrote, I felt like, oh my gosh, this is just a genuinely wonderful person that we are so lucky to know in any way, right? And so it's just been so cool. And to watch you guys like with your friendship is amazing. It's so cool.
It's because I was on Patrick's show, and Sonia, we were talking about my best friend's wedding, and Sonia liked what I had to say, so we just started following each other on Twitter, and social media is not always terrible, you guys.
Right.
You
that's how we met.
That's how the show started.
Yeah.
And when it transfers over to real life, even if it's not in person, but a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, I love you, you're great, and whatever. And then like, that doesn't always follow up with like an actual text or a call or something, right? But you guys, it's like so obvious that like this is a real friendship. It's not just.
It is.
Yeah.
We talk every day.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm like, we text every day. And, I've talked about this lots on the show about how much this movie means to me. Like it's gotten me through some shit. I brought it with me through like all my medical adventures. Like I would just listen all the time.
Yeah.
Like just sit there and just listen. And like, it just brought me so much joy. And, I always say like Patrick's like my podcasting hero. Like I feel like I learned so much listening to him, and sometimes I worry that like I'm mimicking him or I'm like, but I mean it with like the most like respect.
Yeah, no, of course. And I love it whenever you guys have Adam on your show. I love it how you always say like my podcasting brother from another mother. And I'm like, I love that. It's just like we're family, Like,
yeah, that's the other thing I also say, that Dorking Out is kind of like this movie's bratty little sister. Like I do feel like our shows are connected in that way, and so I love having Adam on. I love having you on. It's so fun when you're on. And we need to have Patrick back on. Actually,
yeah, and we were just talking about like him having you guys on, so that's funny that you say that.
Yeah, that was. Oh my god, it was like my dream come true to be on this movie. I was so
We
nervous.
went on there to talk about Revenge of the Nerds. Like, what is a better idea than that? It was so much fun.
That's perfect.
We had such a good time. Okay, before we go, Erika, where can people find you on the internet?
Sometimes when I have time, I get to write and record with at this movie, and I'm on Twitter, and yeah, that's it.
She does these really great episodes with Patrick where you guys revisit your top 10 lists of a certain year, and it makes me so angry at myself for not saving all my lists.
Oh my gosh, I
can't believe I didn't do that.
Those are so fun. And then sometimes, there have been times where it's like, well, we didn't have time to rewatch every movie, but like our last one, we really tried to rewatch a lot. And it's just so interesting to think about how you've changed as a person. Like, so the last year we did was 2004, right? So 16 years ago, and, now we have a different house and kids and, different jobs or the same job, it's totally different position, whatever. And to think about how you see films now with the way that the world has changed, and some still, like I was surprised in our last one, the way that a few films really still stayed with me and hit me. And I was so happy to be revisiting them. And then others, I was like, oh, I can't even stomach this anymore,
Yeah.
Do you remember which ones? Like,
well, one that like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, I actually was worried. I'm like, oh, have I built this up in my head over the years? Because it's been a while since I've seen it. Maybe it's going to be too cutesy, quirky, something, right? And I actually really still loved it.
Oh, good.
That's good.
One movie that we rewatched, Spanglish, and there's lots of good about Spanglish, but there was something about, and I even said, like, maybe it's the pandemic that, when you watch movies during the pandemic, there's a different feeling sometimes, but there were a lot of things in Spanglish that had me like rolling my eyes and just kind of like groaning that I don't think in 2004 I was reacting that way. So yeah, those are two examples. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you've seen a lot more movies since then, and the movies haven't changed like we've changed. So we're going to react differently to different things.
Yeah. And I try to be fair. Like a movie is a movie, right? Like, so it's not, I would never say, oh, and now it sucks or something like that. Right. Cause that's not true or fair, but my reaction to it, like if I was watching it today for the first time, it's a different feeling than 2004. Yeah. So, but those are, so yeah, thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Sometimes we're like, we don't know if anyone's really listening or reading, but oh well, it's fun. So
I love those episode. Margo, where can people find you?
On social media, you can find me at Brooklyn Fit Chick, and that's mostly for Twitter and Instagram. And my blog is brooklynfitchick.com.
And if you like the sound of our voices, we also co-host What a Creep at whatacreeppodcast.com. And every week we talk about a creep. And then we end the episode with someone who's not a creep. And I think the next one is going to be John Voight.
Woo!
He's a creep.
Oh, I'm excited to hear all about that.
It's what a disappointment he turned out to be. Okay. You can find me at thesoniashow.com and The Sonia Show on Twitter and Instagram, where I post pictures of my kid and bread. And you can find Dorking Out at dorkingoutshow.com, Dorking Out Show on Twitter, sometimes Facebook. And you can email us, I remembered, Margo, at dorkingoutshow@gmail.com. And we'll send you some stickers. We have the cutest stickers.
Cool.
Actually, we need to send Erika some stickers.
I need stickers.
Yeah, for Rosie. Yeah.
Okay. And for me.
For you and you and the kids. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Thanks.
We'll make it happen. And this was super fun. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about Cocktail with us.
Thank you for letting me dork out about a movie that is terrible, but I still will watch anytime.
I will totally watch it again.
That's why we exist.
So until next time, everybody wash your hands, wear your masks, practice social distancing, don't have sex in a waterfall, and we'll see you next week.
Maybe. I might.